Have you noticed how difficult it has become to feel like you've made it? Not rich, not wealthy, just stable. Maybe you got the promotion you wanted. Maybe your salary is higher than it's ever been. Maybe you're earning more than your parents did at your age. And yet, instead of feeling secure, you feel strangely unfinished. Like you're running toward a finish line that keeps moving. Because somewhere along the way, something changed. The milestones that once gave people a sense of arrival started disappearing. And many of us are still trying to understand why. For generations, life followed a relatively predictable financial story. Graduate. Get a job. Buy a home. Build savings. Retire. The details varied, but the structure was recognizable. These milestones weren't just financial goals. They were psychological anchors. Proof that your effort was leading somewhere. Proof that progress was real. And perhaps most importantly, proof that adulthood had a shape. Today that shape feels much harder to find. Not because people suddenly became irresponsible. Not because younger generations don't work hard enough, but because the relationship between effort and certainty has changed. And that shift affects far more than our bank accounts. It affects how we see ourselves. Think about home ownership. For decades, buying a home represented something larger than real estate. It represented permanence, roots, a sense that the future had become a little more predictable. Today, many people spend years saving for a down payment only to watch housing prices move faster than their savings. The goal remains visible, but it feels increasingly distant. And when a milestone becomes difficult to reach, something interesting happens psychologically. We don't just lose the milestone, we lose the emotional meaning attached to it. Suddenly, it's not only about the house, it's about stability, identity, belonging. The feeling that your life is progressing in a direction you can understand. The same thing is happening across many parts of modern life. Retirement used to feel like a destination. Now many people quietly wonder whether retirement will exist in the form previous generations imagined. Careers once felt like ladders. Today they often feel like moving walkways. You can keep walking and still feel uncertain about where you're going. Even education has changed. For decades, a degree was often viewed as a ticket to predictable economic advancement. Now many graduates enter the workforce carrying debt, uncertainty, and a job market that evolves faster than the education system itself. The milestone still exists. But the guarantee attached to it does not, and that's where much of the anxiety comes from, not uncertainty itself, but the collapse of certainty where we expected it. What's fascinating is that most people think their stress comes from money. But often, it comes from something deeper. Money is measurable. Psychological security is not. You can look at your bank account and see a number. You cannot easily measure how safe you feel about the future. And when traditional milestones become harder to trust, our brains start searching for new signals that we're doing okay. That's one reason social media has become so intertwined with financial identity. When stable milestones disappear, visible milestones become more attractive. Followers, luxury purchases, income screenshots, lifestyle upgrades. The appearance of progress starts replacing the feeling of progress. Not because people are shallow. Because humans naturally seek evidence that their efforts matter. We all do it. We all want some indication that we're moving forward. The problem is that visible signals are often poor substitutes for genuine security. A luxury car can signal success. It cannot guarantee peace of mind. A higher salary can increase freedom. It cannot automatically eliminate anxiety. Because psychological stability requires something different. It requires trust in the future. And trust has become increasingly difficult to build. Consider inflation for a moment, not just as an economic concept, as a psychological experience. You save money, you delay gratification, you make responsible choices, then prices rise, rent rises, food costs rise, insurance rises. Suddenly, your financial discipline feels less rewarding than it once did. The math changes. But so does the emotion. You begin questioning whether you're actually getting ahead. And that uncertainty creates a strange kind of exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion. Financial exhaustion. The feeling that every step forward requires more effort than the last. Like climbing a staircase that's slowly becoming steeper. Many people are carrying that feeling right now. They aren't failing, they're tired. There's a difference, but there's another layer to this story that often gets overlooked. The disappearance of financial milestones has also created an identity problem. Because milestones do more than organize money. They organize meaning. Think about it. If adulthood is no longer clearly defined by buying a house, retiring at 65, or staying with one employer for decades, How do we know we're succeeding? What are we measuring ourselves against? Many people don't have an answer, which is why comparison has become so powerful. When shared milestones weaken, personal comparison grows stronger. Instead of asking, "Am I building a stable life?" we start asking, "Am I keeping up?" And those are very different questions. One creates peace, the other creates endless competition. Because there will always be someone earning more, saving more, traveling more, displaying more. Comparison has no finish line. That's what makes it such an effective trap. The deeper realization is that perhaps the real crisis isn't the disappearance of financial milestones. It's our expectation that life should still feel organized around them. We inherited a map from a different economic landscape, a landscape with different housing costs, different career structures, different expectations, different forms of stability. But many of us are still judging ourselves according to that old map, and when reality doesn't match the blueprint, we assume something is wrong with us. Maybe nothing is wrong with us. Maybe the map is outdated. That perspective changes everything. Because it shifts the conversation from personal failure to structural change, and once you see that distinction, a surprising amount of self-judgment begins to loosen. This doesn't mean financial goals no longer matter. Of course they do. Saving matters. Investing matters. Planning matters. Passing matters. But perhaps we need new ways of defining progress. Progress might be building an emergency fund that helps you sleep better. Progress might be reducing financial stress rather than maximizing status. Progress might be creating enough flexibility to spend more time with people you care about. Those milestones rarely go viral. But they often matter more, because they're connected to actual quality of life, not public perception. And maybe that's where this conversation ultimately leads. The end of financial milestones doesn't mean the end of progress. It means the end of a specific definition of progress. One that many people were taught to expect. The challenge now is creating a more resilient version. A version less dependent on external validation. Less dependent on comparison. Less dependent on reaching some magical future moment where everything finally feels secure. Because for most people, security isn't a destination. It's a relationship. A relationship with uncertainty. A relationship with uncertainty. A relationship with money. A relationship with enough. And those relationships are built slowly. Quietly. Often without dramatic breakthroughs. The truth is, many of the old milestones were never as permanent as they appeared. They simply gave people a story they could believe in. Today, we may need different stories, not stories of constant growth, not stories of endless optimization, but stories of adaptability, resilience, and emotional stability in an unpredictable world. Because maybe success isn't arriving somewhere. Maybe success is learning how to move forward even when the road keeps changing. And perhaps that's the milestone that matters most now.